In his play, Henry VIII, Shakespeare writes this: "We are all men in our own natures and capable of our flesh. Few are angels." There's truth to those ancient words, right? But the truth also is that we've all known someone in our life whose kindness, whose beauty, whose grace has been so profound that, we wind up saying, she's an angel, or he is such an angel, we're grateful that he's in our life. Maybe about 20 years ago, angels were all the rage in our culture. There were all kinds of books and paintings and Afghans and glassware that all had angel motifs on them. And then, like many things in our culture, they were over. It was a hot topic for just a minute. But in the Bible, there are many places where angels are mentioned, talked about. Today is the feast of the guardian angels. And that tradition of guardian angels has its roots in the Hebrew tradition, because in the Hebrew tradition it was believed that every human person had a guardian angel, as well as every single part of creation had a guardian angel overlooking it. So yes, that means that maybe your dog or cat has a guardian angel as well. This picture that I've put up here today is called the Guardian. And I recall growing up that this was often on holy cards. It was often in prayer books. I recall some people had pictures, a rendition of this, in their own home. It is believed that this picture dates back to 1918. And researchers say that the original painting was designed to be for a postcard. For a postcard, not to hang in a museum or on somebody's wall, but for a postcard. And the signature of the artist that was found underneath the image was H. Zabateri. Now, some believe when they've researched this that this was a pseudonym for an artist from Austria whose name was Hans Zatzka. And later, as a few years went by, another artist who simply signed his name Lindbergh took this picture, refined some of the details, and made the colors a lot more vibrant and vivid. Now, this certainly isn't what you would call a classic piece of art that you would go to a museum to see, but there's something very touching and very beautiful about it. It kind of draws you into the picture, those children, the bridge, the angel hovering behind in a very respectful distance. And I think about when this was first created, around the year 1918. The First World War was just ending at that point in time. And this was a war that saw terrible, horrific tragedy and many hardships people endured during and after it. It was supposedly the war to end all wars. And as soon as the war ended, then came the pandemic of 1918, the Spanish flu, the fear and the worry and the death and the illness that gripped people at that time. So this image, both then and in all the years that followed, would become a very comforting one, a very gentle one that reminds us that God has not lost control of the world, but that God is here, very present to guide us, to guard us, and that the angels are meant to remind us that God is here and to lead us always to God. And I think that is an image that's an important one, a good one for us in these troubled times. It's also a reminder that faith is not magic. God is going to call, but we're not forced to go. We have to be led to God's grace. We have to go to God's grace. And the truth is that all around us there are signs of that grace, angels, if you will. But it's not usually in the form of a winged creature. But we experience those signs of the presence and the grace if we do what Jesus calls us to do, which is keep our minds and our hearts open. So I think on this feast of Psalm 91, and that's a favorite for many people. They may not always realize it's Psalm 91, but so many people love the song On Eagle's Wings, and the lyrics are from Psalm 91. And in part of 91, we hear this: "For he commands his angels with regard to you, to guard you wherever you go. With their hands they shall support you, lest you strike your foot against a stone." When in your life have you experienced that kind of grace, that sign of grace? Maybe a moment when you felt that you were in the presence of angels, of a power greater than yourself, of God's grace in your life. Now, sometimes people will go to something very dramatic. I was standing on the corner and I felt something push me back onto the curb before the truck came, racing by, speeding by on the street. Well, that doesn't happen for most people, for many people. I think for most of us, that presence of grace and angels and God's and being led to God is something more subtle. It's that moment when you are guarded inexplicably from saying something that you wanted to say, but would just have continued the argument or the disagreement. It's that moment when you feel this presence, that you're crossing over into some new situation and you feel you're being lifted up, even in a moment of darkness and trouble. These are all the signs of grace, the signs of the angels that are leading us always to God. The word angel, both in Latin and in Greek, is translated literally messenger, or one that announces. So it's interesting to me that this painting was originally intended to be a postcard, a message that someone would send to someone else. Who in your life has been a messenger of Jesus' good news? Was it a moment maybe when you didn't see it coming, or you didn't realize it, but all of a sudden, this person's, leading me to God, helping me to know that God is real and nearby? And then maybe even a more important question, has there been a moment in your life when you have been that messenger? You have been that angel, if you will, of good news, that you guarded someone against despair, that you supported someone in a time of difficulty. Today is an important birthday. No, it is not my birthday. My birthday's in March. On this day, October the 2nd, 1538, Charles Borromeo, our patron, was born. Charles Borromeo would not live a long life. He died when he was 46 years old. But in those years, he was a true messenger, an angel, if you will, of God's mercy and tender care, of Jesus' good news. And he was that angel especially to the poor and the destitute, those who had fallen upon hard times, and certainly the sick and their families during the terrible plague of his time. The poet Emily Dickinson writes, "We turn not older with years, but newer every day." So maybe today you will celebrate Charles Borromeo's birthday. Maybe you'll get some cake. Maybe you will be out this evening having dinner someplace, and you'll get a glass of wine and you will toast Carlo on his 492nd birthday. How to do the math. 492nd birthday is today. But no matter what our age, what we celebrate today is a new spirit. That we don't turn older, we turn newer every day in the power of grace. That we believe that God's wisdom is everywhere, that we trust the message of Jesus, that every day is a new beginning. And maybe today we might just listen. Listen very carefully, not with our ears, but with our heart, and realize that there are indeed angels who are guarding us and leading us along the way.